What's up, everybody? It's your boy JTMM, aka JustTenMoreMinutes, aka the Freaking 10, back again with more Sabaton history, and this time, the defense of Belgrade with Last Dying Breath. You know, I said it yesterday, and I walked away really thinking about this was whose command, right? That erased by your command, I think was the line, or it was something similar. And I was sitting there and I was like, was it their own commanders? Was it the command of the Reich? Or not the Reich, but the Kaiser? Who was it? Right? And so that really kind of stuck with me, and I was thinking about it, and I wanted so bad to go read about it. I was like, no, because then I know the history, then this won't fascinate me as much. So I kind of kept myself on the edge, if you will, of waiting to truly see about it before going and reading about it. So with that being said, let's check it out.
Andy Nidell.
I'm Per from Sabaton, and this is Sabaton history.
Per and I first met when he was a guest on my channel, The Great War, to talk about the history behind the Sabaton songs that deal with World War I topics.
And The Last Dying Breath is one of those songs. It was about the defense of Belgrade.
When the First World War began, the might of the Imperial Austro-Hungarian army descended on Little Serbia. That didn't work out so well for the giant.
And our song, The Last Dying Breath, was inspired by a legendary speech.
The fighting in the Great War had returned to the place where it all began. The Austro-Hungarian invasion of Serbia in 1914 had been a complete failure. The Serbs had won resounding victories at places like Cher and Drina, and the long Battle of Kolubara, which even saw the Austrians take Belgrade, though they only held it for 2 weeks, pushed the Imperial Army back out of Serbia with devastating losses. Well, it was now late 1915, and they were going to try again. Serbia was a major prize. Taking it would give the Austrians one fewer battlefront, and it would open up a direct rail supply link from Berlin to Constantinople. This time, it would begin with a combined Austro-German force under Germany's renowned August von Mackensen. He planned to attack Serbia at multiple points on its northern front, while secret negotiations were proceeding with the Bulgarian government about joining the war and then also the Serbian invasion from the east. His plan was simple. The newly reorganized Austro-Hungarian Third Army was to cross the Danube and the Sava west of Belgrade and take the high ground south of the Serbian capital. This would not only isolate the city, but also bind as many Serbian troops to it as possible. Mackensen well knew the importance of the White City for the honor and prestige of the Serbian people. At the same time, his 11th German Army under Max von Gallwitz would cross the Danube to the east of Belgrade and push further inward into the Morava Valley, threatening the main Serbian forces outside the capital and the city itself from the other side. While the Austro-Hungarians were the anvil, the German army was to be the hammer under which the Serbian army would receive the killing blow.
War begun, the Kaiser has come. Day or night the shells keep falling. Overrun, but never outdone. Street to street, denying defeat.
But you know, the Serbs had time to prepare. Months had passed since the defeat of that 1914 invasion, and another attack on the capital was of course anticipated. Both the Danube and the Sava were major obstacles, and the Serbs readied their defenses. Mackensen had to hurry with his plans before the onset of bad autumn weather, and it was already late September when his forces reached Belgrade. After the taking of Temeziget, one of the biggest islands in the Sava, they made ready to storm the city. The assault troops were given extra ammunition and rations, with the knowledge that once the river crossing was made, supplies and reinforcements could not be guaranteed. On the 6th of October, the Central Powers artillery opened fire, bombarding the Serbian lines. Massive artillery, especially heavy howitzers, was the key component in Mackensen's plan.
That's a hell of a gun.
This was a lesson he had learned during the Gorlice-Tarnov offensive earlier in the year, where his heavy artillery repeatedly broke the Russian lines, forcing them back time and again. Also, in addition to the large amounts of heavy howitzers and Minenwerfer, the Austro-Hungarian river monitor Samos and other armored steamers of the Danube flotilla also opened fire. Soon, Belgrade and the Serbian positions were in flames as the Austro-Hungarian forces tried to cross the Danube. But Austrian Field Marshal Hermann Kövesi von Kövesi had chosen poor spots for the crossing. The ground was swampy and the weather turned for the worse. A heavy rainstorm caused the Danube to swell. Bridgeheads were established, but progress was slow, as most of the pontoon bridges were destroyed by the Serbian artillery or simply swept away by the heavy current. Relentless Serbian counterattacks threatened to destroy the bridgeheads, and the Austro-Hungarians fought with their backs to the river. To assure a safe crossing of the main force, Kövesi had to take several islands in the river, particularly two islands the Germans named Zigeuner Inseln, Gypsy Islands, or the one they called Great War Island, at the conflux of the Sava and Danube rivers. These were all well fortified by the Serbian defenders, and camouflage machine guns covered every approach over the river, and they could only be taken by close combat. Even with the assistance of the German 22nd Reserve Corps, commanded by General Eugen von Falkenhayn, the German Army Chief of Staff's brother, progress was slow. Casualties among the assault troops were high.
You know, the thing that boggles me about this, and I guess for me, it's a running joke with myself of, they pick the damnedest times to go in and run these. I mean, we saw that with Russia and the winter there. And we saw that with, Russia even doing that with the winter war. And I truly, sometimes it really just, it boggles my mind as to if you, I mean, to me, when I see the map, and I see where Austria-Hungary was and where Serbia was and where Belgrade was. And then they're talking about, the push, and they're starting this in September, October. The winter is coming. Now, with that, you depending on, I mean, I there was a lot of rain they were talking about. I don't know if that was a consistent yearly thing or not, but some of these just seem so poorly planned when it comes to weather, time of year, all of that plays a huge part of this. That part just it boggles my mind. I get their strategy, right? I mean, they essentially wanted to come in and create kind of a pocket to cut off the city. That part makes perfect sense. That, no debate there. I think the curiosity for me, as my finger hit one of the buttons on my Stream Deck, I was like, what the hell did I do? Nothing, thankfully. But I think about that, and it's just like, they pick the damnedest times, I swear. This one is just, I mean, I really hate to admit it, but I don't mind being my ignorance in the area showing. I was looking at it and they were showing where Serbia was, and I was sitting there thinking to myself, I really feel stupid to where some of these countries are located. And I was like, oh, I didn't think that was there. Oh, I didn't think that part was, that close to Austria-Hungary, etc. Because I was looking, I was like, man, is that really where Serbia is? I mean, it's not something that pops up in my daily life, so it's just not something that my brain stored. But I just think about these countries just going in and wanting just to expand their borders and resources and all of that. I guess I get to a point, and I have to take myself back to the time, right? We're talking 1914. We're not talking about modern day with modern stuff. We're talking about, pre-depression times and a time where resources weren't vast and at hand. So that's where it makes a little more sense as to, why you would be doing this, as compared to today, where a lot of countries, a lot, not all, are more, you know, ready for stuff like this, I guess you could say is the easiest way. With technology, with radar, things like that. I mean, it's not just something, we've seen it with Russia and the Ukraine. It's just not something that you do that goes unnoticed and such. This is just, it boggles my mind at the time of year they pick. Let's finish this. It just, that sits in my mind.
Overrun, you're under the gun. Day and night, the shell.
And I will say, I want to correct myself. I went back and I re-listened to the song. And it still didn't connect with me, but I made a comment yesterday about the drums being overpowering. It wasn't the overpowering. It was the beat that in some places just seemed off. And it was all purposefully done for the sake of the song, but it threw me off. So it wasn't that they were overpowering. I wanted to correct myself on that. It was just, there were certain parts where they chose a downbeat didn't make auditory sense to me, but that was just my little nitpick. So, all right, let's finish this.
Bells kept falling, sound the drum. The great war has come. Show no fear, the ending is near.
But after hours of fighting, most of the Serbian guns defending the city were destroyed by the enemy artillery. The anti-aircraft batteries as well, allowing the German reconnaissance planes to direct fire even more efficiently. The eventual capture of the river islands was the turning point in the battle, as the crossings could now be made in relative safety and the artillery could be moved up. Fighting reached the old fortress of Kalemegdan. Belgrade could not hold out much longer, not without help from the Entente. French troops were en route from Salonika, but it was extremely doubtful they could arrive in time to help. Still, counterattacks were made wherever possible. So while the Austrians at Kalemegdan waited for reinforcements, the men of the Serbian 10th Infantry Regiment, under Major Dragutin Gavrilovic, prepared such a counterattack. They knew it was likely futile, but they planted their bayonets and prepared to at least delay the enemy from entering the city. This was the moment Major Dragutin Gavrilovic made his speech. Soldiers, exactly at 3 o'clock, the enemy is to be crushed by your fierce charge, destroyed by your grenades and bayonets. The honor of Belgrade, our capital, must not be stained. Soldiers, heroes, the Supreme Command has erased our regiment from its records. Our regiment has been sacrificed for the honor of Belgrade and the fatherland. Therefore, you no longer need to worry about your lives. They no longer exist. So forward to glory, for the king and the fatherland. Long live the king, long live Belgrade. The story goes that Gavrilovic's men stuck flowers to their tunics taken from a flower shop nearby as they prepared to charge to their deaths. It was indeed heroic. Most of Gavrilovic's men were cut down by the Austro-Hungarian guns. Gavrilovic was badly wounded, though saved from death by other survivors, who dragged their major back from the fighting so that he, at least, could live to fight another day. The rest is history.
Soldiers, heroes, die for your land. Your lives are gone, erased by your command. Until your last dying.
On October 9th, Mackinson reported the fall of Belgrade. The relief force from Salonika never made it to the Serbs in time. Bulgaria declared war on Serbia October 14th, and the Austro-German-Bulgarian invasion brought victory to the Central Powers weeks later. Today, Gavrilovic's speech is etched into a monument near the Nebojsa Tower to commemorate their valiant last stand. The stand of a defiant and proud people refusing to be cowed by an overwhelming force.
So that makes sense. So essentially they had already been written off to be killed by their command. Okay, erased by your command. So now that explains it. I was getting a little worried as to the thing. Now, the speech itself, that's I'm sitting here thinking about the speech and what was said. And it's almost heartbreaking for those soldiers, you know, but then it stirs up that intense pride for them, because, I mean, how would you feel essentially being told on the battlefield, you've already been written off to die? You really don't even exist. That's one of those that I'm sitting here contemplating how I would feel in that situation, because it brings up this mixed emotion. Part of it was, I don't exist. Hold my beer. Watch this. You know, and then part of it is, they already know I'm going to die. Why the hell are we fighting? Right? It's a double-edged sword for those guys. And obviously they went out, you know, and did what they could, even in an unsuccessful attempt. But then that part of me of, hold my beer and watch this. And I don't drink beer, by the way. But to be told that, and then for him to give that speech, yeah, that's insane. I mean, literally, I'm sitting here and I apologize for kind of the blank stares, but I'm like, how do you truly feel in that situation? It's one thing to be fighting for your country, right? You've already got that pride of fighting for your country and what your country stands for, and trying to hold off an enemy trying to take your land. That's one thing. But then to have that same command that was, you know, boosting you before, to tell you that you don't exist. That's hard. That is a double-edged sword in that sense. All right, let's finish it out. I could sit here all day and just let it spin in my head.
How did you hear the speech in the first place?
So, a very long time ago,
Yeah?
I happened to get acknowledged with a girl from Serbia.
Okay.
This was by the time Sabaton was formed, and we were kind of talking constantly, and she hoped that we would come there and play one day, which I didn't think would ever be possible, because at this time there was a war. And in 2007, we come to Serbia for the first time,
Yeah?
and I meet with her.
Yeah.
She shows me around, takes me to the fortress, and tells stories about Belgrade's history.
Okay.
This was the first time I heard about Mayor Gavrilovic and the speech and the defense of Belgrade. Speech was all I needed to be inspired to write a song. So this song we've only performed once. We played in Serbia, in Belgrade, and as a special treat, we had the speech pre-recorded by a famous Serbian actor. And it was magic for us to hear, because
that's
all the
awesome.
people in the crowd, they could scream along to
They knew
these
the-
words.
they knew the whole thing,
They knew
yeah.
the words by heart.
Yeah.
And we were standing backstage and listening to this, and we were full of tears just before we're gonna play the song, because we knew how much this speech, this history, meant for the people out there. And when we walk out there to play the song, this was one of the absolute highlights of our entire career playing a song.
Wow. And ladies and gentlemen,
Boy, that got
Last
me.
Dying Breath.
Vi nemate više da se brinete za živote vaše. Oni više ne postoje. Zato napred u slavu za kralja i otadžbinu. Živeo kralj! Živeo Beograd!
And that was Last Dying Breath,
See you next time.
here
Oh,
on
that got me.
Sabaton History.
All right, everyone. Remember to subscribe to the Sabaton History channel, but also to the regular Sabaton, and check out World War II and Time Ghost as well, all right? If you want to see more stuff like this, right there, playlist, click it, and then support us on Patreon, guys, all right? It makes this stuff happen. Take care and see you on the road.
You know, that's what gets me. You know, it is the pride when you hear certain things. There's a lot of the times, you know, where something will come up. You know, obviously 9/11's a big thing, and there's certain songs that were created around that time for that situation that, you know, invoke a lot of feelings. There's songs of, you know, within Texas that mean a lot with certain things, but it's just it's one of those, you know, and I've said it before with the songs of like the one with Brazil, and there was another one. I don't remember, and y'all can kill me for it if it was Sweden or Finland or what, you know, where it was another song like that. And it's just one of those that really gets me when you see a country that has a history like that and they remember a speech like that, and it just it that gets me every single time. And I can only imagine the feeling that those guys had getting ready to walk on stage and having that play beforehand. Oh my God, I would be an absolute mess. Just listening to everybody say it, that magical moment, just thinking about it. My God, I get what Bear is talking about with that. Man. God, I love these episodes. And I don't know what day I'm gonna do the indies channel. I'm going to have to take one of the days of music because weekends are just my weekends. I mean, you know, with the way that work's picking up and things like that, you know, that's going to be the difficult part. I don't just have a lot of time just to sit and record between meetings. There's not a lot of time. But yeah, this one gets me. It's one of those where the story makes the song that much better. It really is. So I won't mumble and ramble on too much as I sit here and just think about everything. But that being said, I'll see you tomorrow. Not sure which one yet. I don't know if I'm gonna do a replay of the Lady in Dark. I forget the Lady in the Dark or the yeah. But we'll see. Anyway, that's gonna do it. Y'all know who I am and what I'm about. I'm JTMM. Like, subscribe, and share. I'm out.